Nouran Gohar is the reigning world female squash champion and was recently named PSA Female Player of the Year for the third year in a row. Known as the Terminator on the court, Nouran has consistently proven herself as a dominant force in the sport, reaching the pinnacle of success with multiple titles and accolades both on and off the court, including being honored as one of Forbes Middle East's 30 under 30 in 2022. Born in Cairo, Egypt, she discovered her passion for squash at a young age and quickly rose through the ranks with her exceptional talent, fierce determination, and unparalleled work ethic. Nouran's journey is a testament to the power of perseverance, mental toughness, in the relentless pursuit of greatness. It's an honor to have her on the show, and she joins us today from Cairo, Egypt. Welcome, Nouran, and thanks for joining us on Life Excellence.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's such a big honor for me to be a part of the show, and thank you for inviting me over.
It's my pleasure and my honor. It's going to be a great conversation, and I'm looking forward to it. Nouran, you've just ended a season that is arguably your best ever, and was capped by winning your last 5 tournaments, including the World Championships, the British Open, and the World Tour Finals. And not only did you win those last 3 major tournaments, but each included a victory in the finals over the number 1 ranked player in the world, Nour El Sherbini. In Egypt at the World Championships, you claimed your first world title after losing to Sherbini in the previous 3 World Champs finals. What did it mean to you to not only win a title that had eluded you, the World Championship, but to also do so in your home country and against someone who has been so tough to beat in that tournament?
Yeah, you just summarized everything right now. So, yeah, I think it wasn't only about winning the World Championship. It was about winning it in Egypt and beating Sherbini in the final after losing 3 times previously in the World Championship. Me and Sherbini have always had very tough matches in different finals, and sometimes it goes my way, sometimes it goes her way, but at the World Championship it was always her way. And I remember talking to my mental coach before the World Championship, and we were trying to prepare for that. And one thing that made a huge difference is that I told him I don't feel like I'm going into a World Championship. I'm feeling like I'm playing another big major. And to just don't think about the pressure and just think about it as another tournament. So I think that way made it very relaxing for me. Obviously not very relaxing. It's still a very big tournament, and it's very hard to get your nerves together. But I just went into the tournament not putting the pressure of losing 3 World Championships before that and in the final. And obviously in the past it was very tough to lose these matches. But yeah, and then he told me, I think you wouldn't be happy just like winning a World Championship. You would be happy winning it in Egypt against the one that made you lose the previous 3 encounters. And it was true. Like, I think the whole occasion made it extra special.
And that's really the thing that stood out for me about the match when I look back on it and thinking about it, even going into that match, is what you had to overcome mentally in order to beat Nour. And it's interesting, your explanation of how you approached it. And obviously you were successful in doing that. What was that like going through the match? So you won the first game, and so that must have given you extreme confidence. And then you lost the second game. And what were you thinking about through the beginning of the match and in the second game, and then going into the third and fourth games, which you won, obviously?
We did play in the final of Laguna, which was 2 weeks before that one. It was another platinum event. And I did actually win the first game. I was very close to end the second game, and then I lost the second game. And then I won the third and the fourth. So it kind of a similar story, but obviously every match is very different. But in my mind, I was trying, when I lost this second game in the World Championship, I tried not to panic and remind myself, okay, I just did it. Like, I was the same player, I'm playing against the same player, still in Egypt. It doesn't matter if it's a World Championship, it's another platinum event. I was able to come back in the third and the fourth, and obviously I was very grateful to have my coach Haitham Aifat with me in my corner after the second game. He came to me and he's like, just forget about this. Even if you're 2-love up, you should win this coming third game. And I think it's always about thinking about the next step, not two steps like after the next step. No, just the next step. And when I won the third game, it gave me confidence to win the fourth, I think. But if I would have thought about the whole match, it would have been very tough on me mentally to think about it. And from the beginning, I think I didn't think about winning or losing this match. I was thinking more about executing my game plan that I thought it was very solid, and I was very confident in it. And this just because if you don't perform well, you're never gonna win. But if you're thinking about winning and you're not performing, it's never gonna happen. It's just added pressure, unnecessary added pressure, and I just didn't want to have this on my shoulder.
How much of the game is mental versus physical? Obviously, you have, and we're going to get into professional squash and what it takes to play at that level. But how much of it is mental versus the skill set? You obviously have both.
It's huge. I think it's huge, especially when you're talking about world number 1 and 2, claiming titles. Obviously, the mental aspect differs from certain ranked players to other. It's very different. Like, obviously, when you're like, I don't know, top 50 and you want to climb in the ranking, it's a different mental struggle. But the mental struggle between being the top 2 in the game and trying to clinch the titles, and you kind of play every 2 weeks, so it's a very tough rivalry to have. You have to be mentally very prepared, and then you always know that if you win this match, the next one they're gonna come at you, and it's very fine margins. I think, like in the top 3, especially right now, it's very small and fine margins, and the mental aspect of it definitely plays a huge role. I think we are all fit. We are all very good at squash, technically, tactically, but it's who on that day that has their mind all together that is gonna win at the end, I think. Yeah.
Well, and obviously that day you were able to come out on top. And beyond that, though, Nouran, the way you finished the year was so impressive to me, because you would face and defeat Sherbini not only in the World Championships, but also the British Open in London and then the World Tour Finals in Seattle. And you beat her all 3 matches, which is incredible and has to make you feel very good about how you finished the season and the season in general. As you reflect back on the 2023-24 season, how would you assess your performance?
The season itself, I would say it was... I had my... highest in my career, but I had my lowest as well with the injury. I would say it was an unexpected season in all aspects. I didn't expect myself to be injured. I got injured when I was at the very peak. I was world number 1. I was playing very well. And then obviously I had a phase of disappointment with the injury and a big struggle and a lot of doubts that I was doubting. And then obviously the second half was just spectacular, extraordinary, like something that I never expected. So again, unexpected. I didn't expect myself, first of all, to perform that way and to get these results, knowing how my season started. I truly believe in myself, but I'm very honest with myself as well. And seeing how things were going at the beginning, I was like, okay, if I can just end this season well enough, I'll be very grateful. So to be honest, I never expected it to be one of the best seasons of my life, definitely.
How did you mentioned your injury, and you were at the pinnacle of the sport at that time. You were ranked world number one, and then you got injured. And so going through the season, you ended up the way it did, and you had some impressive victories and played very, very well at the end of the season. Tell us, if you could, about overcoming adversity, because I think there's a big lesson in that. That had to have been an incredible letdown, emotionally, psychologically, being at the top of the game and then getting injured. And how do you overcome that? How did you overcome that?
I think for any athlete in any sport, the worst thing that can happen is being injured. I always say your body is your asset. So if your body's not functioning well, then like you can't perform, you can't do anything. Like your job is gone in a way, and that's why we take very good care of our body. We have a big team of physiotherapists, doctors, fitness trainers. This is a very important part, and yeah, I remember. So the thing is, at the beginning, so I had this injury from last season, at the very end of last season, and then I tried to like treat it in the normal way, like with physiotherapy, and but it was just getting worse. And then I started the season feeling a lot of pain. So I was in pain for almost 3-4 months and trying to push through the pain, and it's very hard because it makes you very edgy and not comfortable. Like you're always in pain, even when I was walking off court, like not even on court. Like as a normal human being, I couldn't like just walk around the city or the town. I couldn't do stuff like that, so it made me feel very edgy and nervous. And in the end, I did injure myself like drastically, and I had a tear of 9 millimeter in my plantar fascia, which is technically the whole plantar fascia, and I was still competing that way. And the doctors were like, "You have to be in a boot right now, like for 6 to 8 weeks." And then that happened just before the U.S. Open, which is one of my favorite tournaments. I won it 3 times previously. I always feel very comfortable playing there. It's obviously a very prestigious tournament to win, and just having the news of being out was a shock in itself, because I didn't expect it to be that bad. I was just expecting like, okay, it's just a nasty injury and it's just gonna go away. But they were like, no, you have to just stop. And it was mixed emotions. Like at the beginning, I had 3 tough seasons back to back, so I was kind of burnt out, and I reached 24 finals out of 21 events. So if you do the math and the amount of matches I've played, it's a lot. So not only physically, but on my mental health as well. Like it was very, very demanding and very tough. So in a way, this injury made me have a break that I wouldn't have taken it if it wasn't because of the injury. And I remember at that time, actually, I watched every single match that was playing on the PSA Tour, whether man or women. I became like a very big fan of squash. Obviously, I'm always a very big fan of squash, despite being a professional squash player. But I was like a geek, like watching every single thing that was being played, and even like small tournaments, not only platinum, like silver, and like my husband was like that's enough. Like we have squash is like on our screen like 24/7, and I just missed it. I guess I missed it, and this injury made me see things from a very different perspective. Yeah, and then I was supposed to be back, so I flew to Austria to the Red Bull Rehab Center, and they connected me to one of the best foot specialists there. And what I had was very like, it doesn't happen often. Like, it wasn't only about the tear. I had also like a very bad contusion in my heel, so it's very sensitive. And like squash, you can't play without impact for sure. Like, it's all about impact. So and it was just by touching the heel, I would scream. Like, it was very painful, and I had to treat it. I took 4 PRP injections, which was very painful. I was by myself, completely by myself, so it was very depressing as well, like being by myself on my birthday and US Open being played. I'm in this place where it's like completely isolated. It's a very nice center, but it's completely isolated. I have nothing around me. I stayed there for almost 4 weeks, and that every day. So when you're by yourself, you're always talking to yourself, right, in a very negative way, obviously. And I'm like, am I gonna go through this? Am I gonna be able to play again, even, or not even win? I'm just thinking about playing, just playing and competing. And as I said, like, I was really struggling just walking. So I just wanted, all I wanted is just to be pain free in general. And then coming back, and then I was supposed to come back for Hong Kong end of December, and like my progress wasn't that great, and they were like, you have a very bad chance to go back, because if you go back and you re-injure yourself, it's going to be even worse. And then, okay, I have to wait, which I hate in general. And then I started again in Florida in beginning of Jan. And I lost in the semis, I think, but I knew I was on the right track. I think I really surprised myself in terms of performance. But again, I never thought about that would be the year that I'm gonna win the World Championship. I never thought about it that way. Like, if anyone would have come to me in October and told me this year, and actually someone came to me in October and told me, you're gonna win the World Championship, which is my physiotherapist, Hamad Wafay and Francisco back home, they both told me, they're like, you know what, you're gonna win the World Championship this year. And I started laughing. I was like, okay, come on. I was very well prepared. I was very ready, and I didn't win it. I'm gonna win it that year when I'm not ready. And it happened, actually. So
well, it's funny how that works, but you might be right. Maybe the break actually did you some good. I mean, the pause in playing, and certainly taught you a little bit about patience. I think it's funny that you were binge watching squash. When you binge watch squash, are you doing that for entertainment, or is there technical analysis? Are there things that you can learn watching squash?
I think unconsciously, obviously, there is a technical thing. I try to learn from every single player, even if they're below me in the ranking, or I think you can learn from every single player. Like, they have something special. If they're on top, playing in the top 20 or top 30, obviously there is something that they know how to do. And learning from every player, I think, just do you good, and it helps you be a complete player, actually. So I think, firstly, it was more for entertainment, but in the back mind, I was like analyzing and saying, oh, actually, they played this shot in a good way. So everything is in the back mind, and everything is like, you remember it when you need it. So it's in the unconscious as well. Unconsciously, you do analyze and you do learn, but it wasn't like I'm having my pen and paper and writing down tactics or technical stuff. No, it was more about, okay, I'm having my lunch and watching a squash match, and then, like, unconsciously, I was doing the analysis in my mind, I think.
Certainly better for your squash game than binge watching a television series or something like that, right? Like you said, it goes into your subconscious, and that can only be helpful. Nouran, you're known in the squash community as the Terminator because you hit the ball so hard. What do people who know you, other players, other coaches, your coaches, announcers at tournaments, what do they say about you and your style of play?
So I grew up learning from a squash coach. His name was Mohammed Medhat. So he used to hit the ball very, very hard. Like, extremely hard. And that was my first coach, actually. And as for men, it's like, obviously they're stronger than us, so they hit the ball harder. But you would find like people like John White who would hit the ball super hard, but for women, I think it wasn't very like usual to find a girl hitting the ball that hard. So actually, they knew that this would give me a huge advantage growing up. And it's not only about, I think, hitting the ball hard, it's about pace as well and taking the ball early. So having the two aspects, like you're actually taking time away from your opponent, but you're actually hitting it hard so that they don't have time to regroup as well. So it's like both. So not giving the time for the opponent and the ball coming at them very fast is actually pressure, and that's how I think I execute pressure on my opponents. So I think they have always thought, like any coach that I worked with throughout my junior career and even my senior career, they thought that's a big advantage that I have. But you can't only do this for sure. Like in order to win big matches and big titles, you cannot only be playing a hitting game. But obviously, it helps you, giving you more chances to get more winners, or to attack more, or so it's like a setup. Like it sets you up to like hit the next shot as a winner. But if you're just hitting the ball hard, it's not gonna make good for you. And I think as well, what made a huge difference for me was the quality of the shot, like thinking about the quality of the shot, not just hitting the ball hard. So obviously, I'm known for hitting the ball hard, which is something that I love, because it makes me a bit unique on tour. But I think as well they like the fact that my shots, my basic game especially, has quality, and that's the hard part, to find the hitting, but also the quality, I think.
So you have a combination of hitting hard, but also finesse when you need finesse.
I think, yeah, or it's I think growing up as well, my parents, especially my mom, always wanted me to have a good technique. Like she didn't just want me to win. She would be very like strict in my technique and my solo sessions, and I would solo for maybe 3 hours a day. So
Wow.
it made me very familiar to the court and familiar to the way I'm hitting the ball. And she would always tell me, you have to have your wrist up, you have to have your racket up. So that's why I have a very high racket preparation. So I think that's definitely that definitely helped me. Like, it's not just about hitting the ball; it's about hitting it with good target and good technique, I think.
Do you like being called the Terminator?
I do like it. I do like it because, actually, fun fact, I think me and Sherbini, we were the first two female players to be given a nickname during the final of the British Open in 2016. Like only man had nicknames, and we female didn't have nicknames. And then they came up with the name during the British Open final. Yeah. So
that's funny. And what is Noor's nickname?
I think Warrior Princess. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I remember. I think I like it because it's the complete opposite of my personality off court. Like as you can see, I always like to laugh and smile, and I'm not that intense at all off court. So if it intimidates a bit my opponents, I'm okay with it, as long as I'm playing with the rules and everything. But off court, I'm the complete opposite person, and even my friends, they always laugh about that. They're like, if they know you off court, they wouldn't even like get 1% intimidated from what you're doing on court.
Oh, that's funny. Nouran, I'm a student of success and achievement, and I have tremendous respect for professional athletes in all sports. Tell us about your lifestyle and regimen as a squash professional. What's required of you to play at such a high level? You mentioned earlier the difference between, say, being in the top 50 and being in the top 2 or 3. What does it take to be a professional and to compete at the level that you do in squash?
I think it takes everything. It takes squash becomes your life. Like, it's all about squash. Like, everything is around squash. When I prepared for my wedding dates, it was depending on my squash schedule. It's never something before squash. No, it's always squash that comes first, and then anything else comes around it. Like, even when I rest, it's for squash to be fresher. So I think that's the most important thing to know before going into any sport in general. I think if you want to play at a very high elite, it's very common, because I do live with another professional athlete. I do live with a fencer, actually. So we both understand that our sport comes first, and then anything else is gonna come after that. And so by this I mean, like, I can't go for all outings. I can't have dinner outside every day, because I need to sleep early, because I need to be fresh for my training tomorrow. I do wake up very early, go for my fit. Like, I usually wake up like 6:30, 7 a.m. Or no, actually 6 a.m. because I have my first session that starts at 7 a.m. ended at 9, which is a gym session. And then I start my technical session after that with my squash coach at 9, finish it at 11, then go back home, cook during my weekend. Sometimes I might not spend the whole weekend having fun because I'm doing my meal preps, because when I go back from training, I need to have my meal prepared, and so that I get some time to nap. And then after I nap, I wake up, I go again for another training session, which is more like practice matches, which is another 2 hour. And then after I'm done with that, I go to my physiotherapist to recover. And I go back home. It's like 8, 9 at night. And then I just need to eat and sleep and do again. And then this is if I'm staying at home. If I'm not, I'm traveling for tournaments. It's all about the matches, obviously. I do travel from 12 to 14 times a year. 10 days each tournament. So that's like, if we do the math, it's like 140 days. So half of the year I'm not there. So when you compare this to just a normal person working from 9 to 5, it's a very different lifestyle. And obviously it's very exciting in a way, because you do meet people from everywhere in the world. You do what you love, because at the end of the day, squash is my passion. So I'm doing what I love, but you do a lot of sacrifice as well. For example, I didn't attend my brother's graduation, which was last month, because I was playing at the World Tour Finals. I didn't attend my own graduation because I was playing in San Francisco at that time, because I chose to. So you do a lot of sacrifices, but if you're willing to do it, you just don't feel that these are sacrifices, I think. And it's not only about you, it's also about the people around you. My parents and my husband and my brothers, or my friends, they understand that I'm not available. There is a percentage of 90% that I'm not going to be available. It's only 10% that I might be available. And sometimes if things are going great, you're like, oh my God, that's the best thing in my life. If they're not going great, you can start feeling a bit doubtful, or a bit sad. You're like, is that really worth it? All of this and all of these sacrifices. I think people don't see how much we give up for being where we are, and for being just on court. Sometimes I see it in different sports, even in soccer especially, the athlete would get hundreds of criticisms for his performance or for what he's doing, or they're talking about his private life, and they have no clue what happened behind the scenes. They have no clue what's going on. And I think It's a very hard lifestyle to have, but it's a very rewarding one as well, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of people want to be really good at things, their chosen profession, but they're far less likely to do what it takes to be really good at that. So I'm sure you find that in squash. I think you find that everywhere. And you're right. Part of it is really, we don't have appreciation for what goes into that. So we see you playing in a tournament, you play 4 matches, say, and you win the tournament. But what we didn't see was what it took back at home, getting up at 6 and going to bed at 9 and doing that training regimen, by the way, at home is that 6 days a week?
6 days
5
a week.
days a week, 6 days a week? Do you rest on the 7th day?
Yes, I do, but sometimes, as I said, like I have to do stuff around squash, like I have to recover. But it's like go do like a massage or something, which is a nice thing. I'm not saying it's, but it's still like I have to sleep early on, like sleep a lot on that day, so that I do recover as well. I do need to do my meal preps for the rest of the week. So, but I love this lifestyle. Like this is what I chose, and this is what I think it's suiting me right now, and I'm loving it. I'm actually, when I got injured, I appreciated it even more. So when I got injured, I was like, okay, let me now have fun. Like I don't have tournaments. Let me now see my friends, go out, and it took me only 2 days to be like, okay, that's not what I want. Like I want to go back to the hard lifestyle that I had, or the one that I think, because even when I was in college or high school, like, so I studied construction engineering, and I remember my friends, they were like, how do you do this? How do you balance between both? Like, it's super hard. We're only having our degree, and it's like, it's a nightmare. How do you do both? But again, I think you have to be willing to give up on stuff. And if you know that this is more important, like having a good degree and being a professional athlete. So for me, I'd give up on my social life during that time. Like I didn't have a social life. Like I was just doing, it was either squash or studying. So yeah.
Nouran, I know you give a lot of credit for your success to your team, and you've talked about some of the people on your team, and in particular to your coaches. Share with us why you believe it's so important to have a coach, and what qualities do you think are essential in a coach?
I always say it. I think the biggest bond between, like one of the biggest bonds in any relationship, I think it's between the athlete and the coach. It's a very special bond. Like no one would understand this except the ones that had it. And I was very lucky to have these special bonds with a lot of great coaches. I'm not gonna start naming because I'm gonna forget names for sure. But lately, obviously, I had this special relationship with Rod, obviously, and Rodney Martin, which he was one of the legends of the game, and I felt very lucky to be able to learn from him that close. Right now, I'm working with Haitham, which like his family, for us, for me and my husband, we're very good friends, but at the same time. There is this relationship between the athlete and the coach, which is it's very special and it's very different. Like, and I think it differs from one age to the other. Like, I remember when I was 13 or 15, my coach, if we would have told me just throw yourself out of this window, I would do it without even thinking. Like, because he's super important to me. He's like. I would listen to what he's saying as if he's my parents. Like, but I think when you grow up more and you become more mature, you become more friends with your coaches, and then you start having like more in-depth conversation, like deep conversations, and not only about squash but about other stuff that happens in life and off court and then on court. So you're kind of friends, but on court he's the one that is like if he feels like you need someone that yells at you, he will do it, but at the same time he knows when to do the right balance. If you're feeling too sad or being too harsh on yourself, you just like say it's okay, everything is gonna be fine. So I think if an athlete can find this coach where they feel like they have this special relationship with them, they're very lucky. They're very lucky, and I think it's all about that in sports. And coaches do leave a very big mark in your life. I think they do not only teach you on court, but they do teach you off court, because they're the ones that you spend most of the time with them, and not only like during practice, but also during matches. These are very tough moments, and if you go through it together, it just it's just like unexplainable. It's just special, I think. And you do remember these days. You do remember when you're down, and then he pushed you through the match, and then it it brings out of you something that you didn't know you have. Like he gives you more confidence, but from going through something like that, like a very tough match or something. And I think, I don't know, like I always think that two people that will have a huge effect in your life or impact in your life would be the coach and the teacher. I think these are the two people that you will always remember. When you're 40 or 50, you'll remember that, I think.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. And obviously, you've been fortunate to have surrounded yourself with such great people. And I think we could probably go through everybody on your team and hear stories of the difference that they've made in your life. But I know you appreciate having them around you. Nouran, most of our listeners and viewers obviously aren't professional squash players, but the vast majority aspire to achieve at a very high level in their chosen profession. What advice do you have for those of us who want to reach the highest level of whatever we want to do in life?
I think, again, like just having this dream in front of you and truly believing in yourself, because no one else is going to believe in you more than yourself. Obviously, you need to surround yourself with people that pushes you to be a better, not only player, but a better person in general, I think. And it definitely helps. And how you're conducting yourself off court obviously reflects on court. So, but I always say it, like, if you don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to believe in you. So, and being like ready to give up on things, and being ready to know that it's gonna get tough, being ready to not giving up, being ready to know that it's gonna happen, that you're gonna have really bad days, like really, really bad days. But if you push through these days, it's only gonna get better. So I think just having this goal, and like when I was a kid, when I was 9 years old, I remember I had this paper hang on my wall, and it was written on it, one day I will become world number one and world champion. So and I would wake up every single day, see this paper. So even if I had the worst day of my life the day before that, I know that I have a goal and something that I want to pursue, and something that I think it's worth every single like tear, every single sweat, every single something bad. And I just keep on going, and I'm not giving up.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. There are so many wonderful lessons, I think, packed into not only what you just said, but what you've, some of the things that you've shared throughout the show. One of the things that I noticed in doing research for the show is the disproportionate number of Egyptian players in the top 10 in the world. And I looked and went through the top 10, and both men and women, and half of the top 10 men and women are Egyptian. How big is squash in Egypt? And why do you believe your country is so dominant in the sport?
Recently, squash is becoming huge. I think that's the most popular sport, individual sport, after soccer, obviously. Like soccer is the most popular sport, but squash is the most popular individual sport, and it's because of all the success that we're having right now, I think. But how it started, I think So I have different ideas for that. I don't know what is the element especially, but there's different things that help to achieve that. And I think the first thing is the tournament at the pyramids was Ahmed Baroda. So we had Ahmed Baroda, I think it was in the 90s, and he was the hero of squash during that time. He was the only Egyptian in the top 2 or top 3 at that time, and the tournament at the pyramids was huge. Like thousands of people would go and watch. Like it was a very big event, and the sport was supported by the president as well at that time. So it had a lot of support. So I think all the mans in the top 10 right now that you see used to go and watch him play during that tournament, and they're like, okay, we want to become like him, we want to be like him. So having this icon obviously helps generation to believe that they're able to reach this level. Like right now we're having Mo Salah in soccer. He's Egyptian, and he made it to Liverpool, and he's one of the best athletes. He's one of the best soccer players. That wasn't even a thing in Egypt, but right now, like kids are started believing that they can do the same because they found like an example, a living example in front of them doing that. So that's one thing, and then I think that made more parents and more juniors eager to play. So in a tournament in Egypt, like a national tournament, a club tournament, you'd find like under 11 from 250 to 300 kids competing. And obviously with all this huge competition, there is 5 or 10 people that are gonna, or 10 kids that are gonna be great. Like this, like huge competition makes them like very eager, and you would find like a kid that has like 9 years old and he has a whole team behind him. He has a nutritionist, he has a fitness coach, he has a, you don't find this in any other, like they take it very seriously from a very young age now. On the women's side, I think it started with obviously we had a lot of women playing in junior especially and achieving, but they would always stop. Like it wasn't a common thing for women in Egypt to like play professionally. I think it really started with Umnaya, and obviously who made it to the final of the World Championship and who was top 4 in the world. But who took it to another level is Ranim, for sure. Ranim Al Walaili. Like she was the first ever Arab female athlete to get to world number 1 in any sport. So this is huge. Like being an Egyptian and world number 1, and not any Arab country made it in any other sport. This is such a big achievement, and I got the chance, and I was very lucky to be training at the same club as Ranim. So I would see her day in, day out, how she trains, how she conducts herself. I had the chance to be playing a bit in her era, so I got the chance to see her during matches, how she would have tough matches, and how she would go and win them at the end. She helped me a lot at the beginning as well. When I started playing on tour, she would coach me during matches. So I think having this definitely for the women, like for the Egyptian women, definitely played a big role. And obviously now when they see like 3 top women, the top 3 in the women are Egyptians, they truly believe that they can make it up there. Like I think this actually gives them extra confidence that they know they're Egyptian and other Egyptians made it to the top. So why not? We can do it.
So contrast that with squash here in the U.S. I don't think we have any American men's players in the top 20. We do have some top women players, 1 currently in the top 10, I think maybe 3 in the top 20. What's the state of squash in the U.S. from your perspective?
I think the U.S. has done a great improvement, like huge improvement. And recently, I actually attended the Nationals, which was played in March at the Spectre Center. I was there just having some training sessions, and I can see it. Some similarities with the national tournaments in Egypt now. Like I can see tons of players playing. I can see like the Draw under 11. It has many players, like 100 or something, and I can see how coaches and parents especially are so eager for the kids like to win, and they're taking it very seriously. I don't think it was the case maybe 15 years ago. I definitely think that squash, with the inclusion in the Olympics for LA 2028, has done a huge impact, and has made like US squash like looking for even more improvement. And right now, and even if in the man like they don't have a top 20 player, but I'm pretty sure someone is gonna get there in the coming years. But in the women's side, there's 4 top 20 US women players in the top 20 and 2 in the top 10, which never happened before, I think. So we can definitely see it as as a rising country in squash, and in terms of number, maybe you can see that US is just a number 2 country after Egypt, I think.
You mentioned the Olympics, Nouran, and that it will be included. It was recently announced that it'll be included in the 2028 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles. How significant is that for the sport? It's been a very long time coming. Probably should have happened a long time ago, but it's going to start in 2028.
It's just a dream for any squash player to be playing in the Olympics. I think that's the biggest stage that you want to play on it, and I just think that squash, that's the least that they deserve, because I think we're tremendous athletes, technically, physically. Like squash is it's one of the hardest physical sports on earth. Like it's so demanding, very hard movements, and you have the endurance aspect as well. Like it combines everything in the physicality aspect, and tactically as well. It's very tactical, so I don't see a reason why it shouldn't be an Olympic sport. So finally to get into the Olympics is such a dream, but something that we truly deserve, I think. And for me personally, to be chosen as the athlete representative for the presentation that we made for the LA 2028 committee was a huge honor for me. I was truly honored to be part of it, a small part of it. Like obviously there's a huge work that has been done behind it, but to be part of this successful attempt was something that I will always be very honored with. And yeah, I think it's very exciting news for the whole squash community. I don't think I've ever seen this squash community as happy and as excited as when they knew the news about squash being included. Because I do remember, for example, we were playing a world championship in Chicago in 2019, I think, and we got the news that we're not included in Paris, and it was just it was just very sad. And we were playing the World Championship, which is one of the biggest events, and we were like, but we truly deserve to be there, and we do everything to be a very elite and very professional sport. So why aren't we there? Like we do deserve that. So I'm glad that we got what we deserve, I think.
Will we see you in Los Angeles in 2028?
Yes, that's the goal for sure. I'll do everything to be able to be there. Yeah.
And what will that mean to you personally to represent Egypt in the Olympics?
It will mean everything. It will mean everything, and I think by playing professionally, you don't really get the chance to carry the flag of your country that much. We just do it when we're playing world teams, or when we were playing juniors. Obviously, when we were playing the World Junior Championship or the world teams. So to get the chance to represent Egypt on a very big stage like this would mean the world to me. And I just hope I can do it. So obviously my husband right now is a few weeks away from competing in Paris, and we're hoping we can do it, both of us, to LA, and it would be very cool to be in different sports and representing the same country. So that's the aim and that's the dream, and hopefully we can get there.
Well, that would be awesome, and I hope to see you there. Nouran, as you know, our show is called Life Excellence, and you operate, as we've been talking, at a very high level as a professional squash player. And I wonder, what does excellence mean to you?
That's a very nice question. So I think excellence, it's very hard to achieve, but it is achievable. But when you say like there is nothing perfect, so there is a difference between excellence and perfect, I think, or perfection. Perfection is so hard to, like, there's nothing perfect in this world, I think. But excellence, the more, like, you can achieve that, but you have to, like, do everything very, very well and very, very excellent and very, very neatly and very right. And it is achievable, but it requires a lot, I think.
Absolutely. And you've certainly demonstrated that, not only in your sport, but in life. Nouran, one of the things that I admire about you is your desire to inspire and be a role model for young people, especially young girls. Why is it so important for you to not only achieve your own highest potential, but to also inspire others to do the same?
Because I was inspired by others, so I know how big of a role that plays in how big of a role that played in my life in general. So I want to just give back and do the same with the younger girls, because I know how big of an impact that has when you inspire someone, and especially girls. And again, as I said, like, it wasn't a common thing to be studying full time and playing professionally on a very high level. I did actually graduate from construction engineering the same year or the same month where I reached world number one. And this is something that I've always wanted to prove, because when I started my studies, everyone was against that. Everyone would tell me, you would never get there. It's so hard to do this. You're not doing anything good for your career as a professional squash player. You can always study when you're done. But I always thought, okay, why this stereotype of a professional athlete? They can't do anything else. They can only do one thing. And I didn't have someone that did what I wanted to do. So I wanted to be the example of, no, you can be a very good engineer and a very good player at the same time. You can do this if you were willing to do that. And right until today, like, when I find a young girl coming at me and she's like, thank you for inspiring me, thank you for pushing me to pursue my dream of becoming an architect or an engineer or anything, or a doctor, and still be able to play, that's the whole point of what I'm doing, I think.
Well, I can tell you that you are an inspiration not only for young people, but for anyone who knows you. Nouran, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been wonderful getting to know you better, and I'm so appreciative of you coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me, and it was a very, it's one of the nicest talks that I had, and I'm very happy that you invited me over.
Me too, and I'm happy that you came. It's been an honor. Thanks for tuning into Life Excellence. Please support the show by subscribing, sharing it with others, posting about today's show with Nouran Gohar on social media, and leaving a rating and review. You can also learn more about me at brianbartes.com. Until next time, dream big dreams and make each day your masterpiece.